The 911 call that wasn't from this world. Arizona desert. The desert doesn't go quiet at night. It only pretends to. During the day, everything out there feels exposed. You can see for miles. But once the sun goes down, the land changes. The heat vanishes. The air thickens. And the darkness feels closer, like it's leaning in. That's why long-distance drivers hate this stretch of highway. There are no towns, no rest stops, no cell towers for miles. Just asphalt, sand, and the feeling that if something went wrong, no one would hear you scream. The man on the 911 call had been driving for nearly 3 hours straight. He hadn't planned to stop. He later told the dispatcher that everything felt normal until the feeling hit him. Not fear, not panic. Awareness. The same instinct that makes you turn around when you know someone is behind you, even before you hear them. He checked his mirrors. Nothing. He rolled his window down, expecting to hear wind. There was none. Just silence. That's when his radio turned on. Static poured through the speakers, loud enough to make him flinch. He reached for the dial, and the static cut out instantly, as if it had been waiting for his hand. That's when he noticed the stars disappear from his rearview mirror. Not all of them, just the space directly behind his car. As if something tall was standing there, blocking the sky. That was when he called 911. The dispatcher asked standard questions: name, location, emergency. The man hesitated before answering. He said he didn't know how to explain what was happening without sounding insane. Then he said, "I didn't hit anything, but something followed me." The dispatcher asked him to describe it. He couldn't. Not because it was invisible, but because every time he tried to focus on it, his head started to hurt, like his brain was rejecting the image. That's when the second voice appeared. At first, it sounded like feedback, a faint echo underneath the man's words. But within seconds, the dispatcher realized the echo was too clear, too precise. The second voice repeated the man's sentences word for word, always 2 seconds later. The dispatcher asked if someone else was in the car. The man said, "No." The second voice repeated the word, "No." Same tone, same breath pattern, but stretched, as if it had learned how to say the word, but not why. The dispatcher's training told her to keep the caller talking. She asked him to describe his surroundings. He said the road looked wrong now. The headlights weren't reaching as far as they should. The darkness ahead felt thick, heavy, like fog, but without moisture. He said the thing behind him hadn't moved, but it was closer. Not physically, mentally. He said, "It's figuring me out. It's waiting for me to finish my thoughts." That's when the second voice stopped repeating. Instead, it answered. It spoke the dispatcher's name. She had never said it out loud. The man started crying. He said the mirror felt warm. He said the glass looked deep, like it wasn't reflecting anymore. The dispatcher told him to keep his eyes forward. He said he couldn't, because something was leaning closer, close enough that he could feel breath, but not on his skin, inside his head. The second voice laughed, not loud, not aggressive, curious. The man screamed that it was smiling, not with a mouth, with recognition. The call cut out suddenly. No click, no static, just silence. When officers arrived, the scene didn't make sense. The car was still running. The driver's door was open, but the seatbelt was still fastened, twisted, as if it had been pulled tight. The mirrors were cracked, not shattered, cracked inward, as if something had pressed against them from the other side. There were no footprints in the sand, no drag marks, no blood. Just one thing officers couldn't explain. The phone wasn't damaged when they picked it up, but when they tried to turn it on, the screen lit up by itself, and for a brief moment, the reflection on the glass wasn't theirs. The official report blamed heat exhaustion and disorientation, but the dispatcher knew better. She later told a coworker that the second voice didn't sound evil. It sounded patient, like it had been waiting a long time for someone to answer the phone.
Something followed them out of the woods. People who grow up near the Appalachian Mountains will tell you something strange. The forest there doesn't feel like nature. It feels like memory. The trees are older than most towns around them. The paths twist in ways that don't always make sense. And the deeper you go, the more the woods seem to close behind you. Locals learn early not to wander off the trail, not because of animals, but because of silence. When the forest goes quiet in Appalachia, it's never a good sign. The couple had been hiking those mountains for years. They weren't tourists. They weren't reckless. They knew how to read trails. They knew how to tell when weather was turning. They knew the difference between fear and imagination. That's why what happened to them stayed with them long after they left the woods. They started the hike late in the afternoon, planning to be back before dark. The trail was familiar, wide enough to walk comfortably, marked clearly. For the first hour, everything felt normal. Birds, wind moving through the trees, the distant sound of leaves shifting. Then, without warning, it stopped. No birds, no insects, no wind. Just the sound of their own footsteps. At first, they didn't notice the other footsteps, not because they were quiet, but because they matched their pace perfectly. One step, then another, always behind them. They assumed another hiker was on the trail. It wasn't unusual, but something about the sound felt wrong. The footsteps were too heavy, too slow, not careless like an animal, not hurried like a person trying to catch up, measured. They stopped walking. The footsteps stopped too. They stood still for several seconds, listening. Nothing. One of them laughed nervously and said they were just tired. They kept going. The footsteps returned immediately. Same distance, same rhythm. Always just far enough back that turning around felt pointless. After a few minutes, one of them glanced over their shoulder. The trail behind them was empty. No movement, no shapes between the trees, just the path stretching back into shadow. That's when the feeling started, the sensation of being watched. Not from behind, from everywhere. The trees felt closer now, the air heavier. One of them called out, "Hey, is someone there?" The forest answered, but not with an echo. It repeated the words, same voice, same tone, delayed by just a moment. Both of them froze. That wasn't how echoes worked, and they both knew it. They waited. Their own breathing sounded too loud. Then the footsteps started again. Closer this time. Not rushing, not hiding, following. They didn't talk anymore. Talking felt wrong, like it would invite something closer. The light began to fade faster than it should have. The trail ahead looked darker than the sky above. That's when they decided to run. They didn't say it out loud. They just started moving faster. The footsteps behind them didn't change pace. Still steady, still calm. They broke into a full sprint. Branches scraped their arms, roots caught their feet, their lungs burned. Behind them, the footsteps remained even. Not chasing, keeping pace. As if it knew exactly how fast they could go. The trees began to thin. They could see the clearing ahead where their car was parked. Relief hit them hard, and that's when the sound changed. The footsteps stopped. Instead, something else followed them. Breathing. Not ragged, not strained, slow, controlled, close. They burst out of the tree line and reached the car. They didn't look back. They didn't speak. They threw themselves inside and locked the doors. Only once the engine was running did one of them glance into the rearview mirror. The edge of the forest looked gnarly, too still, as if it was watching them leave. They washed the car the next day. The handprints didn't come off easily. Even after they were gone, faint marks remained, like dents that refused to fully disappear. They never reported the incident. They never went back to that trail. But the forest didn't leave them. One of them still wakes up at night convinced they hear footsteps in the hallway. The other says that sometimes, right before falling asleep, they hear their own voice, calling them name from just behind them.
The house that never stayed empty. Illinois. From the outside, the house looked ordinary. White siding, small front porch, a narrow driveway leading to a detached garage. The kind of house you would pass 100 times without remembering. That's why no one questioned it at first. The neighborhood was quiet. Tree-lined streets, families who waved politely but didn't ask questions. When the first family moved in, people welcomed them. When they moved out 3 months later, people assumed it was coincidence. When the second family left, neighbors started paying attention. Every family stayed about the same amount of time, never less than a month, never more than 3. And every time the house was left in a hurry. Furniture abandoned, lights left on, doors unlocked. The third family lasted the longest. They were practical people, not superstitious, not easily shaken. They joked about the rumors they'd heard, until they started seeing him. It always happened the same way. Late at night, between sleep and waking, someone standing in the hallway, not moving, not stepping closer, just standing there, watching. At first, they thought it was exhaustion, shadows, streetlight glare, a trick of the eyes. But the shape never changed. Tall, still, and always facing their bedroom door. They tried leaving the hallway light on. The shape appeared anyway, only darker, more defined. The father installed motion lights. They never triggered. The mother refused to walk the hallway alone at night. Their son said nothing at first. Then one morning he asked a question that ended the discussion. Why doesn't the man blink? That night the parents stayed awake.
They watched the hallway from their bedroom. At exactly 3:12 a.m., the air changed. It felt heavier, thicker, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The shape appeared, not stepping into view, already there. They couldn't see a face, but they knew where its eyes were. They felt them, watching. Neither of them slept after that. They moved out 2 days later. The next family installed cameras, video, audio, motion sensors. The footage showed nothing unusual, no shadows, no figures. But the audio told a different story. Every night at exactly 3:12 a.m., breathing. Slow, controlled, close to the microphone. Too close to be coming from down the hall. The breathing stopped the moment someone woke up. As if it knew. They tried recording during the day. Nothing. They tried leaving the house empty overnight. The breathing still appeared. The final family had a daughter. She was 6 years old. She slept with her door open. She never cried at night. She never complained. Until one morning at breakfast, she asked her parents something very calmly. "Why does the man only come out when we're asleep?" They froze. They asked her what man. She said the one in the hallway, the one that doesn't walk, the one that waits. They asked her what he wanted. She shrugged. "He's waiting for us to finish sleeping," she said. They moved out that same week. The house is empty now, still standing, still clean, still listed for sale. Sometimes neighbors notice the hallway light turn on at night. Sometimes they hear footsteps inside. But no one ever stays long enough to investigate, because everyone who lives there eventually understands the same thing. The house doesn't want visitors. It wants occupants. And it doesn't like to be alone.
The road you're not supposed to stop on. Nevada. In Nevada, distance feels different. The land is so open that your eyes get tired before your body does. Miles of road, miles of empty ground. At night, it feels even larger. Headlights cut a narrow tunnel through the dark, and everything outside that tunnel simply disappears. No buildings, no trees, no reference points, just road. There is a stretch of highway locals don't talk about openly. Not because it's illegal, not because it's dangerous in any official way, but because everyone who drives it learns the same rule. You don't stop there. No signs warn you, no barriers block the shoulder. You're supposed to figure it out on your own. Most people do. They notice the figure. Standing far ahead, always alone, not waving, not walking, just standing on the side of the road. Drivers usually slow down at first, instinct, concern. Then something in their body tells them not to stop. The ones who listen keep driving. The ones who don't remember the road forever. The first reports came from long-haul truck drivers, men who had spent decades on the road, men who knew fatigue hallucinations. They all described the same thing, a person standing just outside the reach of the headlights, tall, still, facing the road, never turning their head. Drivers who slowed down said the figure didn't move closer. It didn't need to. It felt close already.
Those who stopped never saw a face. No matter how hard they looked, their eyes slid away, like the mind refused to finish the image. Every driver who stopped said the same thing later. They felt watched, not by eyes, by attention, as if something had noticed them and was waiting to see what they would do next. Most eventually drove away, shaken, confused, relieved, until the dreams began. The dreams always started the same way: the road at night, the headlights on, the figure standing far away. Every night it was closer, not walking, not moving, just closer. Drivers woke up exhausted, afraid to sleep again. Some said they could feel someone standing near the bed when they closed their eyes. One man decided to record it. He was a delivery driver with a dash camera running constantly. He drove the stretch at night on purpose. He told himself that if it was real, he would catch it. The footage showed nothing at first, just road. Then, far ahead, something appeared, standing perfectly still. As the car approached, the shape became clearer. Human outline, wrong proportions, too tall, too narrow. The headlights washed over it. There was no shadow, no reflection on the asphalt. When the car slowed, the figure tilted its head, just slightly. The dash camera shut off instantly. No power surge, no damage. It simply stopped recording. The driver did not stop. He later said that was the smartest decision he had ever made. The dreams began that same night. They stopped only after he sold the car. Locals say the road doesn't want company. It wants acknowledgement. If you stop, you give it that. The figure never follows you physically. It doesn't need to. It already knows where you sleep. People still drive that highway every night. They just don't pull over anymore. And when they see someone standing in the dark, they keep their eyes forward.
The child who knew how they would die. Ohio. The first thing people noticed about the boy was how quiet he was. Not shy, not afraid, just quiet. He could sit alone for hours with a pencil and paper, drawing without looking up. His parents thought it was a good thing, a creative habit, a calm child. The drawings were simple: stick figures, houses, cars, trees. Nothing disturbing, at least not at first. It was his mother who noticed the dates. Small numbers written carefully under each drawing. At first, she assumed they were random, a child copying calendars, a game, until one of the dates came true. The drawing showed a man standing next to a mailbox. Under it was a name and a date. That man died on that exact day. Heart attack, sudden, unexpected. The family told themselves it was coincidence. The boy didn't say anything about it. He just kept drawing. More people appeared on the pages. A woman with a dog, a man in a uniform, a teacher holding books. Each drawing had a name. Each one had a date. And one by one, those people died. Car accident, stroke, fall down the stairs. The dates were always exact. The parents stopped hanging the drawings on the fridge. They started putting them in a drawer. They stopped asking questions they didn't want answered. Until the boy drew someone they knew well, his teacher. The drawing was simple: stick figure, long hair, glasses. The date was 2 weeks away. They contacted the school. They warned her. They sounded insane.
The teacher laughed it off. 2 weeks later, she was gone. A sudden illness. The parents couldn't ignore it anymore. They asked their son where the dates came from. He didn't hesitate. "They tell me," he said. When asked who they were, he shrugged. "They talk when I'm sleeping." His parents asked what they sounded like. He said they didn't sound like voices. They feel closer than that. The drawings continued. The parents tried to stop him. They took away his pencils. He used crayons. They took away paper. He drew on cardboard, on napkins, on the back of envelopes. Every drawing still had a date. They noticed something else. The boy never drew anyone twice. Once someone appeared on a page, they were gone. One night his mother found him awake, sitting on his bed, staring at the wall. He said he was listening. She asked what they were saying. He said they were arguing about timing. That's when he drew the last picture. It was their house. The windows were dark. The door was closed. Under it was a word. Almost. No date. The parents packed their things the next day. They moved across the state. They changed schools. They changed routines. The boy stopped drawing. Years passed. Nothing happened. They began to believe it was over. Until one night, long after they had settled into the new house, the father found a folded piece of paper on the kitchen table. A drawing. Stick figures. 3 of them. The family. Underneath, a date. Tomorrow. The paper was blank when the sun came up. No drawing, no date, just an empty page. They never asked their son about it. They never wanted to know the answer.
The final voicemail. California. The man disappeared on a Tuesday. No argument, no warning, no sign that anything was wrong. He left for work in the morning, locked the door behind him, and never arrived. His car wasn't found. His phone went straight to voicemail. His bank activity stopped the same day. At first, the police treated it as a voluntary disappearance. Adults leave sometimes. Lives collapse quietly. But his family knew something didn't fit. He had plans. He had responsibilities. He had called his sister the night before to complain about traffic. People don't vanish in the middle of normal life. Searches were organized. Friends walked the neighborhoods. Co-workers checked parking lots. Police canvassed nearby areas. Nothing. Days passed, then weeks. 3 weeks after his disappearance, his sister's phone rang. It went straight to voicemail. She didn't see the missed call until later that night. The number wasn't saved. The voicemail was short. His voice was calm. Too calm. "I'm still here," he said. "I just can't find the exit." There was no background noise, no wind, no traffic, no echo. Just his voice, clear, present. The timestamp showed the message had been recorded 2 hours earlier. The family contacted the police immediately. They played the voicemail. Officers listened carefully. The voice matched, the cadence matched, the tone matched. But the message made no sense. The voicemail included something else. Coordinates. GPS coordinates spoken slowly at the end of the message. Police traced them. They led to a location outside the city. No buildings, no facilities, no cell towers, just open land. The search team found nothing. No footprints, no disturbed ground, no signal. The area was quiet in a way that felt unnatural, like sound didn't belong there.
The case stalled again. The voicemail was analyzed. Audio experts found nothing unusual. No splicing, no background manipulation, just one odd detail. The audio waveform showed slight distortion during the words "still here," as if the signal had passed through something it wasn't meant to. The family kept the voicemail. They listened to it more than they should have, late at night, alone. Over time, they noticed something unsettling. The more they listened, the more the message felt wrong, not threatening, not emotional, lost, as if the voice didn't understand where it was. Months later, the sister received another notification. No ringtone, no vibration, just a
They say
voicemail alert.
night bus routes
There
are
was
safe.
no message,
That
no
night
audio,
proved them
just
wrong.
silence.
At
The
12:47
timestamp
a.m.,
updated.
3
The
passengers
number
boarded
didn't
my bus.
exist anymore.
None of them
The
came
voicemail
back.
system showed it had been coming from inside the network, not from a phone. After that, strange things started happening. Her phone would light up at night. No notifications, no calls, just the screen turning on. Once, she swore she heard breathing from the speaker. Not loud, not constant, like someone testing whether the line was open. She stopped keeping her phone in the bedroom. The voicemail was never sent again. But sometimes when she checks the saved message, the duration has changed. By a second, by 2. Growing, as if something is still recording, still trying to finish the message, still looking for the exit. Some people disappear without leaving a trace. Others leave something behind. A voice, a message, a signal that should not exist. And if you're listening to this right now, it means the line is still open.